Hey, I am here today to talk about some homeowners insurance and flood insurance. I'm here with my local business partner, Nick Wagner with State Farm, and just wanted to kind of go over some questions and talk through some things that are on top of mind for a lot of home buyers that are in the area. I work with Nick because one of the biggest investments of your life is your home, so clearly you want to have good protection on your home. Also, part of your monthly cost is your homeowner's insurance as well. So he'll quote that cost to them so they know what that cost is before they get into the house. Mm-hmm. Nick, can you talk a little bit about being in coastal South Carolina? There's lots of concerns of storms, and I know there's certain things that need to be written in certain times, and there's wind and hail. Talk a little bit about addressing some of those concerns with the policies.
So we are in a very unique area because we actually have some major things. You know, storms being the major one, of course. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people understand that we live along a fault line. Mm-hmm. You know, when people think of South Carolina, they don't think earthquakes. They think California for earthquakes, but we do live on a fault line.
So you should carry earthquake insurance here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, and it's not covered under a standard homeowner's policy, and that's all homeowners policies. Mm-hmm. It's a very specific coverage that has to be endorsed or added to a policy. And then, you know, we think about flooding as well. Mm-hmm. Flood is a major concern here in Charleston. Mm-hmm. We do call it the Lowcountry for a reason. So we're, you know, in the last few years, we really haven't had to deal with a lot of that. Luckily, we've had storms, but making sure you have adequate coverage in all three of those areas. So homeowners, flood, and earthquake.
So what would happen if we had an earthquake and they didn't have the earthquake coverage under their homeowner's policy?
Yeah, unfortunately it's not covered, yeah. Okay. It's just as if you didn't have flood coverage. It's a very specific coverage. It's an excluded part of any homeowner's policy, coverage-wise. Mm-hmm. So making sure that, you know, are you in a flood zone? Or, you know, all of us in the Lowcountry are in a earthquake zone. But there are different levels. Okay. So.
And so you can carry flood insurance even if you're not in a flood zone, correct?
Oh, I would recommend, like I said, we're in the Lowcountry. I recommend flood to anybody that, because if you do happen to have a flooding, which the majority of floods happen in non-flood zone areas, because there's different types of flooding. Okay. It is a coverage that is excluded under a homeowner's policy.
Okay, well that's good to know. What is the difference between a HO5 and HO3 policy? I know that's something that you go over when you're quoting that for insurance.
Yeah. So your HO5 is your broadest form coverage, and this is the only thing that we write through State Farm is an HO5 policy. And the difference in coverage mainly being one of those where your home could be at full replacement, which is all we do is full replacement. Mm-hmm. So in other words, you have granite countertops, we're putting granite countertops back.
Okay, so same thing. Mm-hmm.
Yep, whereas an HO3 might be actual cash value where they might only replace up to a reduced amount.
Okay.
Where we are full replacement coverage.
So just laminate countertops instead of the granite because they're countertops.
Yeah, it's you know there are your main differences, and then there's some other coverage that are included under an HO5 that are not. They can be endorsed sometimes under an HO3 for additional cost, but ours is included.
Okay. And I know, you know, as an agent, we always recommend, of course, you know, call around, get several quotes. Mm-hmm. When you're in the home buying process. What is the difference for a buyer to go through a direct person like State Farm through you versus an insurance brokerage?
Yeah. So at State Farm, we think of insurance a little bit differently. We think of it more of we're risk managers versus, you know, your quoters and hey, you can get this online. We deal directly with customers, so we sit down and we tailor a policy to fit your needs. Everybody's a little bit different, so we have the ability to write out our own claims. So it's, you know, we have the ability to really have that one-on-one conversation with individuals to make sure we got you covered.
Okay, and you do several other insurances as well, not just homeowners, correct?
We have over 100 products.
Okay, just a couple others.
Just a few. So, you know, some of the things from, you know, home, so fire coverages, bank, auto, of course, life insurance, and then we also do retirement accounts as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think that first-time home buyers or move-up buyers should be aware of in shopping for their insurance for their new home?
So when you look at it, it's not necessarily just the policy coverages itself. Always look at the company as well.
Okay.
We have a lot of carriers in South Carolina that are smaller carriers. When we do have to deal with the hurricanes, the flooding, and the earthquakes as well, you want a company that's going to be around. And so the stability of that company is really, really big. We are Forbes 500, top 36, I think, right now is where we're ranked. And AA rated through AM Best. And then really want to do some research on the company itself.
Because if, God forbid, we did get hit with something major, you want to be sure that they have the financial to support paying out all the claims.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so
Thank you.
much for joining
Yes.
us today and explaining all that. If you have any further questions about homeowners insurance, real estate, auto, anything like that, feel free to reach out to me or Nick.